me start with exercise. All the research shows the more you exercise, the more change in your brain we noted. Every drop of sweat counted. And the best kind of exercise that you can do is all the research shows that the best kind of exercise that you can do is anything that gives you aerobic activity, that is getting your heart rate up. So that goes for, power walking will get your heart rate up, soccer, so many different things. Name your activity. So many people want to say, oh, well, my favorite activity, will that work? And I always just say, is your heart rate up when you're doing it? If the answer is yes, then yeah, that works great. We know that level of aerobic activity is critical because that's going to release that growth factor maximally to get into your hippocampus that will grow those new brain cells.
How much?
So I have an answer to that. So we did 2 different experiments in my lab. One in low-fit people that are really not exercising very much at all, less than 30 minutes in the last three weeks you've moved your body. And we asked, could we see any behavioral improvement in your memory function from your hippocampus or your ability to shift and focus attention if we ask you to move your body in an aerobic way for 2 to 3 times a week. And we collaborated with a spin class, so clearly very aerobic. And what we found was in those people that did successfully do 2 to 3 times a week a 45-minute aerobic activity, their mood got significantly better, their memory function got better, and their ability to shift and focus attention got significantly better. So that gives a little bit of a guideline for low-fit people. 2 to 3 times a week can start to give you some of those cognitive changes. But you don't look low-fit. So let me answer the question you're about to ask me with, what about me? I exercise pretty regularly, and how much do I need? So to answer that question, we went to another spin studio and we said, look, we're going to give you free classes. You could exercise as much as you want in this at this studio and go up to 7 times a week. And the control was just stay the same. They were working out twice a week at the studio.
Control was the other group that you were testing them against?
Yes, okay. Exactly. And so what we found was basically every drop of sweat counted. The more you exercise, the more change in your brain we noted, both your hippocampal function, prefrontal function, and mood. If you were already getting benefit, you're already going twice a week, but the more you did, the more brain changes you got. So that doesn't give the formula that I would like, but we were heading in that direction, which is part of one of the questions that I want to answer. But I love to leave people with the idea that every drop of sweat counts for building your brain into the big, fat, fluffy brain that you really want.
And then in the real world, again, making it super real for people.
Yeah.
How does that change how I show up?
Yeah. If you allow it to, should have a beautiful effect on your mindset. That your mindset around how often should I wake up 30 minutes early and do that walk before I start my day, or accept the invitation to go walk the dog with a neighbor. It's not an obligation. It is something that you're doing for yourself. It is going to have direct benefits on that ball of tofu, as you call it, in your head. It's going to make it work better. And I mean, I think the most immediate thing that I benefit from every single day is the mood boost that you get from that serotonin, dopamine, noradrenaline that gets released every time you move your body.
I always think that because obviously I do a lot of podcasting and I'm super reliant on my brain being attached to my mouth, and sometimes I notice that it's not. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'm not articulate, I can't get my thoughts together, whatever.
Yes.
And I always try and figure out the correlation between what I did that day when I have a good day versus a bad day.
Yeah.
And from your, and also I speak on stage sometimes, so I've often asked myself, because I saw Tony Robbins, the speaker, one day on a trampoline before he goes up on stage.
Yeah.
I asked myself, okay, should I be doing a workout in my green room before I go up on stage for a big talk or presentation? You think I should?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What's the basis of that in science and neuroscience?
The basis is that immediate so there's 3 key effects that we know happen every time you move your body. First one is mood. You're going to get your dopamine, your serotonin up. Second is focus and attention. So a single workout isn't going to make more synapses in your prefrontal cortex, but the prefrontal cortex uses dopamine. And so it's clear that even a single workout can make your prefrontal cortex work better in terms of focus and attention. Also very important anytime you're speaking. And the third is reaction time. Your reaction time is, motor. You're working your motor cortex when you move your body, and your response and reaction time is significantly shorter after even a single workout compared to if you just don't work out and sit alone. So great things to do, a great thing to do before you stand up and speak.
What about coffee? I'm trying to figure out if coffee is good for my brain, bad for my brain. I've had a couple of mixed messages around the impact it might be having on my brain.
Caffeine is a stimulant, and people respond to that kind of stimulant in different ways. Overstimulation with caffeine is not good for your ability to put words together. This is where I turn to a main theme in my book, Healthy Brain, Happy Life, which is self-experimentation. For you, what can you titrate your coffee to see what level of coffee is best for whatever, your podcast or you're giving a talk. The other thing that can work similarly to coffee that I've started and that I do every morning is hot-cold contrast showers, because that cold that you shower on yourself after the heat stimulates adrenaline in you, a natural adrenaline. Ooh, it wakes you up. And okay, it was painful the first kind of few times I tried it, but then you get addicted to it. And I have forgotten to do it and gotten back in the shower just to douse myself with cold water, because I feel better when I do that for first thing in the morning. So lots of different things that one can explore with.
Okay, on the other side of the coin then, what are some of the central behaviors that people do that destroy their brain?
Well, sedentary behavior is one of them. Not getting enough sleep is critical. We haven't talked about sleep yet. Sleep is so important for normal functioning of the brain. I like to scare my students by saying that, in torture situations, if you deprive a person of sleep for too long, they literally die. They die. You cannot function if you are deprived of sleep for too many hours in a row. It's that critical. Yet we happily, watch too much Netflix at night and get only 5 hours of sleep when we could have had 8. So what's happening exactly? Why is it so important? Well, there's so many different things. I'm gonna say 2. One is that we know that in regular healthy sleep, there is activity in the hippocampus that helps you strengthen the memories that you have formed in that previous day. It's called consolidation, and it's so important. If you shorten that, if you don't get enough, you are not consolidating your normal everyday memories. And second, it is the time during sleep when all the metabolites, all that garbage that your brain is producing, because all biological cells produce garbage, it gets kind of cleaned up through the cerebral spinal fluid that is flowing through your brain. And if you do not get enough sleep, you build up garbage metabolites in your brain. It's like you have a gunky brain. And do you feel like, I feel like I have gunk in my brain when I don't sleep enough? That is exactly what is happening.
When you think about things that we consume, like food and drink and alcohol and all these kinds of things, is there anything that if I'm trying to have an optimal brain, I should be having or not having?
Yeah, well, so I think the most evidence is around the benefit of the Mediterranean diet, which is basically all healthy, kind of organic, not organic, but non-processed is the word I was trying to think of, things to eat that are very, very colorful. There's so much evidence about how good that is generally for the brain. That is my go-to. Like what should I eat? Well, is it on the Mediterranean diet? If it is, then go ahead. If it's too processed, only do it just a little bit.
Is it true that if we have less friends, if we have less strong relationships, if we're lonely, then our brain will shrink and is more prone to dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that?
Yes, we are social creatures. And there are really powerful studies that have shown the correlation between the number of social connections that we have, including just saying hello to the barista at Starbucks. It's not a close friendship that you develop over 30 years. It's just how many people you interact with and greet. And longevity. The more people you are regularly interacting with, the longer you are living. Overall longevity. But if you go into brain health, absolutely, it's also very, very healthy for you. It also brings happiness. So a friend and colleague of mine, Robert Wallinger, studied what makes people happy. This study started in the 20s, the 1920s in Harvard. And after all of those many, many, many decades, the answer is what brings happiness is the strength of your social connections. So it makes you happier, it makes you live longer. And yes, loneliness on the flip side causes stress, long-term stress that damages the brain. And in the long term can make it smaller and less healthy.
Do you have any brain routines, like a morning routine for your brain?
Absolutely. So every morning I like to wake up and I do a tea meditation, which is a meditation over the brewing and drinking of tea. And this is after many years of yo-yo meditating. I knew meditation was good, but I just couldn't really get into it. And I was introduced to this form of meditation by a monk who invited me to tea and just did this silent meditation outside in a beautiful location. And the ritual and the sequence of brewing, drinking, seeping, starting over again kind of kept me in the flow. And so I start with about a 45-minute tea meditation. Then I do about a 30-minute workout. I try and do cardio strength. Sometimes I do yoga. Sometimes I just do mobility. And then I have breakfast and then I go to work. Oh, and then I do that hot-cold contrast shower is also something very helpful for my brain health because it really does in me. That adrenaline boost that I get just energizes me. And I love that feeling at the beginning of the day.
Just going back to that question, because I want to close off on it as well, the idea of what would I have to do to destroy my brain? So no sleep, I'm going to be sedentary, I'm going to have no friends, and smoking?
Smoking is very bad for your health and your brain.
Okay, alcohol?
Alcohol, I mean, yes, long-term alcohol can cause significant and named brain diseases. Moderation, even moderation now, studies have shown it is not very good. And the reason why it's not good is that alcohol disrupts your sleep. Even though people drink it to go to sleep faster, the sleep is much more superficial and is not deep, and it's not the healthy sleep. So that is not good overall for sleep, depth and health, and therefore brain health.
I'm going to eat a processed diet to hurt my brain. And I'm not going to have a lifestyle that is novel because we talked about learning.
Right, yes.
So I'm not going to learn anything new. All of these things should shrink that little
You're not going to be mindful also.
Is there evidence that being mindful, which is like meditation and being in the moment, helps the brain?
It does. There's beautiful studies showing brain plasticity in the areas that are important for focused attention. Meditation, the practice of meditation is basically a practice of enriching the function of your prefrontal cortex. So you can focus on that object, either the breath or loving kindness is a form of meditation. So yes, there's been studies that brain changes occur in long-term meditators that are absolutely beneficial.
If it's worth caring about my brain. Is there any evidence within the literature, within studies that have been done that show if I start now, even though I'm like 30, 31 years old, my life will be different in the future in the areas that I care about profoundly if I start caring about my brain?
Let me be very, very concrete here. The answer is absolutely yes. First, I'm going to give you results of a study in people that are 65 and older. So studied people that are 65 and older and asked, what is the probability of getting dementia in the next 6 years, depending on the level of activity that you have? Just right now.
Physical activity.
Physical activity. And they measured it in how many walks you take per week. And if you took 3 walks a week or more, you were 30% less likely to develop dementia in the next 5 years. So, 30% less likely to develop dementia. My father passed away of Alzheimer's dementia. That makes me sit up and take notice. But the thing that should make you, as a 31-year-old, really sit up and take notice is the larger correlations that show that the longer you have regular physical activity in your life, the longer you're able to stave off dementia, the more active you are over your lifetime. That first study shows that it's never too late to start. You can start walking regularly, which is doable when you're perhaps at that age. But the longer you stay active, the bigger and fatter and fluffier your brain will be. Why does that make sense? So one key piece of information that I haven't told you yet is that we know that physical activity is releasing every single time you move your body, you're releasing a whole bunch of neurochemicals in your brain. Some of them make you just feel good. Serotonin, dopamine, noradrenaline, endorphins. Yeah, I feel good. If I go out for a walk, I feel better than if I had been sitting here for 8 hours. But the other thing that gets released every single time is growth factors. I like to call it a bubble bath of neurochemicals that happens every time you move your body. What that growth factor does is it goes directly into your hippocampus and it helps brand new cells grow in your hippocampus. The hippocampus is only one of 2 total brain areas where new cells can grow. That's not the same as synapses, which are connections in the cells that are already there. But the hippocampus can grow new cells. And this is really important because many people know that the hippocampus is attacked first in Alzheimer's dementia. And so exercise is not going to eliminate that disease state. But if you start with a huge, fluffy hippocampus, it's going to take that disease that much longer to actually damage enough of your hippocampus so that you start seeing those telltale signs of memory impairment that comes with Alzheimer's disease and dementia in general. Same thing with their prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex can grow with physical activity. That's not neurons, but new synapses can grow. Age and neurodegenerative disease states can damage cells, but also take away synapses.